You awaken not to the gentle caress of sunlight, but to the familiar, oppressive gloom of your hidden sanctum, a sliver of weak, sputtering light from a nearly spent candle, or perhaps a thin, dusty beam filtering through a carefully concealed window slit, does little to dispel the shadows that cling to the corners of your chamber. This room, your clandestine haven in the 14th century Spain, perhaps a forgotten cellar beneath a bustling city, a crumbling tower on a desolate moor, or a secluded cottage deep within an ancient forest, is often shrouded in dimness, a necessary precaution. The silence is profound, almost absolute, broken only by the soft, rhythmic whisper of your own breath, the occasional rustle of ancient parchment as a draft stirs your scattered notes, or the mournful sigh of the wind through unseen crevices. Sometimes, if your senses are particularly attuned after a night of restless communion with the unseen, you might perceive the faintest of whispers, the ethereal murmurs of spirits yet unbound, a constant subtle reminder of the veil you so often seek to pierce. The air in your chamber is perpetually cool, damp, especially if your sanctuary lies underground. It carries a unique, complex perfume, the heavy, cloying sweetness of incense, the sharp, acrid tang of sulfur, the earthy aroma of dried herbs, belladonna, mandrake, and a dozen others whose names are best left unspoken, the dusty scent of ancient, forbidden tomes, and the ever-present chill of places redcoat touched by the sun. Your living and working space is one, a chaotic yet organized clutter of arcane knowledge and the tools of your perilous craft. Yellowed scrolls and leather-bound books, filled with cryptic symbols and forgotten languages, lie open on a rough-hewn table. Astrological charts, meticulously drawn, adorn the walls. Dried herbs hang in bunches from the low ceiling, alongside animal bones, perhaps a human skull gleaming dully in the candlelight. Your ritual implements, a silver-hilted athame, a heavy bronze bowl, candles of black beeswax, chalk, and salt for the protective circle, are kept close at hand. The first sensation upon waking is not peace, but a sharp, immediate vigilance. Your senses snap to attention, assessing your surroundings for any sign of intrusion, any hint of danger. The ever-present fear of discovery by the Holy Inquisition, by zealous witch hunters, by those who would exploit your knowledge for their own dark purposes, is a constant companion. Sleep, when it comes, is often fitful, troubled by unsettling dreams, by echoes from the other side, for the practice of necromancy, of communing with the dead, exacts a heavy toll on both body and spirit. Yet beneath the weariness and the fear, a potent, irresistible allure pulses within you, the thirst for forbidden knowledge, the burning desire to unravel the profound mysteries of life, death, and what lies beyond. This dangerous path you tread, this dance with shadows, is a calling you cannot, or perhaps will not, deny. And then there is the loneliness, a deep, gnawing ache. Shunned by society, forced to live in secrecy, trust is a luxury you can ill afford. Your morning ablutions are swift and discreet, a splash of cold water on your face from a simple basin. You dress in dark, unobtrusive clothing, perhaps a hooded robe of coarse, dark wool that allows you to blend into the shadows, to move unseen through a world that fears and condemns you. Before all else, you check your protective wards, the circle of salt, the carefully inscribed amulets, the small pouch of herbs worn close to your skin. These are your first line of defense against forces both seen and unseen. Breakfast, if you partake, is a meager, solitary affair, often prepared by your own hand over a small, smoky brazier. A piece of stale bread, perhaps, softened with a little water, or weak wine. A handful of dried herbs steeped into a bitter, fortifying tea, or a bowl of thin, unappetizing gruel. The flavors are simple, often harsh. You eat not for pleasure, but for sustenance, your mind already sifting through the tasks of the day, the rituals to prepare, the dangers to anticipate. The silence of your meal is broken only by your own thoughts, a constant internal monologue of calculations, incantations, and whispered warnings. The meager sustenance, if you even bothered with it, does little to dispel the chill that clings to your hidden sanctum or the deeper chill of your chosen path. The true work of the day begins now, a descent into the forbidden lore that is both your obsession and your peril. Perhaps a noble, desperate to commune with a departed loved one, to uncover a lost will, a hidden secret, or simply to assuage a grieving heart, has sought your clandestine services, their gold clinking heavily in your threadbare purse, a down payment on a dangerous transaction. Or perhaps your own insatiable curiosity drives you, a relentless desire to peel back the veil between worlds. Your first task is research, a meticulous sifting through ancient, brittle texts. You unroll a yellowed scroll, its parchment crackling in protest, the spidery script in a forgotten tongue, Latin perhaps, or a more obscure arcane dialect. You search for the precise incantations, the correct sequence of symbols, the specific herbs and offerings required to summon the desired spirit, or to achieve the particular effect your client or your own ambition demands. The names of power, the true names of entities best left undisturbed, whisper from the faded ink. You cross-reference with other tomes, heavy leather-bound volumes filled with disturbing illustrations and dire warnings. The air grows thick with the dry, dusty scent of ancient paper, the faint, metallic tang of old ink, and the ever-present undercurrent of something else, something not quite of this world. Next, the meticulous preparation of your ritual components. You grind dried belladonna with a mortar and pestle, its sickly sweet scent filling your small chamber. You select a shard of bone, animal, you tell yourself, though sometimes the provenance is disturbingly ambiguous, or a personal effect of the deceased, if your task is to summon a specific soul. Candles, perhaps crafted from human fat for a more potent working, or simple black beeswax, are inscribed with cryptic sigils using your silver-bladed athame. You mix powders, sulfur, saltpeter, perhaps something rarer, more sinister, their colors stark against the dark wood of your table. Blood, a vital component for many necromantic rites, might be required. Perhaps it is animal blood, procured with difficulty, or for more potent magic, a few drops of your own, drawn with a ritualistic prick of your finger, the sting a sharp reminder of the price of your art. You prepare chalk, or a mixture of salt and ash, to inscribe the protective circle, the fragile barrier between your world and the terrifying immensity of the next. The choice of time and place is crucial. Most necromantic workings are best performed under the cloak of deepest night, when the veil between worlds is thinnest, when the mundane world sleeps, oblivious to the forbidden rites you enact. A deserted cemetery, its ancient tombstones leaning like drunken sentinels, a forgotten crypt beneath an old church, the air thick with the chill of death and decay, a lonely crossroads where spirits are said to gather, these are your unholy cathedrals. The risk is immense. A mispronounced syllable in an incantation, an incorrectly drawn symbol, a moment of fear or distraction, and the consequences can be catastrophic. The summoning of a malevolent entity, a spirit that refuses to depart, or a ritual that backfires, turning its dark power upon you. Your mind must be a fortress of concentration, your will an iron rod. You feel the familiar thrill, a dangerous cocktail of excitement and trepidation as you delve deeper into your preparations. This knowledge, this power, you think, a shiver tracing its way down your spine, it is worth any risk. The weight of secrecy, the constant fear of discovery, is a heavy cloak, but the allure of the forbidden, the intoxicating promise of communion with the dead, of wielding powers beyond the ken of ordinary mortals, is a siren song you cannot resist. There might be a flicker of moral unease. Am I truly serving a noble purpose, or am I merely a pawn of darker forces? Does my work bring comfort, or only deeper despair? But you quickly suppress such thoughts. Curiosity, or perhaps the pressing need for the noble's gold, or the desperate desire for the knowledge only the dead can provide, overrides all else. Later in the day, or perhaps under the cloak of twilight, you might have a clandestine meeting with your noble client or their discreet intermediary. Disguised, perhaps, in a simple traveler's cloak, your features obscured by a deep hood, you navigate the labyrinthine streets of the city, your senses on high alert for any sign of surveillance by the ever watchful eyes of the Inquisition or local witch hunters. The rendezvous point is carefully chosen. A secluded private chapel, a discreet chamber within a fortified castle, or a quiet, out of the way tavern where anonymity can be bought with a few well placed coins. You meet your client. Their face might be a mask of grief, of desperation, or of cold, calculating ambition. They reiterate their request to speak with a deceased father about a hidden treasure, to question a murdered rival about their secrets, to receive a final blessing from a lost love. You listen, your expression carefully neutral, your mind already assessing the risks, the potential rewards, the specific challenges of this particular summoning. You discuss the price, the necessary preparations on their part, perhaps a personal item of the deceased, a lock of hair, a cherished letter. You set the time and place for the ritual, your voice low and authoritative, instilling in them a mixture of awe and trepidation. You see the fear in their eyes, but also the desperate hope, the willingness to traffic with forbidden powers to achieve their ends. You feel a flicker of contempt for their weakness, their hypocrisy. They condemn your art in public, yet seek it out in secret. But you also recognize their desperation, a human frailty you can exploit. They need me, you think, a grim satisfaction. These powerful, pious men and women, they all eventually come to me, to the one who walks the shadowed path between worlds. The day, however, is fraught with peril. As you gather rare herbs in a desolate, overgrown churchyard, you might sense the unwelcome presence of another, a rival necromancer, perhaps, or worse, an agent of the church, their eyes sharp, their questions too pointed. Or during a ritual preparation, a sudden inexplicable chill might fill your chamber, the candle flames might gutter and die, and you feel an unseen malevolent entity brush against your senses, drawn by your dabbling in the dark arts. You must use all your knowledge, all your will, to banish it, to reinforce your protective wards, your heart hammering against your ribs. Perhaps your noble client, their patience wearing thin or their fear growing too great, suddenly changes their demands or threatens to expose you if the results are not to their liking. Or, most terrifyingly, a spirit you attempt to summon might prove too powerful, too malevolent. Its whispers in your mind filled with deceit and promises of power that you know come at a terrible price. A ritual might fail spectacularly, the protective circle breached, leaving you vulnerable, exposed to the raw, untamed forces you sought to control. In such moments, your composure is your greatest weapon. If confronted by inquisitors or suspicious villagers, you rely on your quick wits, your ability to dissemble, to appear as a harmless scholar or a devout hermit. If a ritual goes awry, you must act swiftly, decisively, drawing upon every ounce of your knowledge and willpower to banish that unwanted presence, to close the rift, to restore order, however fragile. If your client becomes a threat, you might use the secrets you have gleaned about them, their own hidden sins and vulnerabilities, as a shield, a subtle form of blackmail. Your life is a constant dance on the edge of a razor, a perpetual gamble with forces beyond mortal comprehension, and the stakes are always unimaginably high. The afternoon sun, if it penetrates your hidden sanctum at all, begins its slow descent, casting long, distorted shadows that writhe and dance like unquiet spirits. The intensity of your research, the meticulous preparation of your ritual components, or the nerve wracking tension of your clandestine meeting has left you drained, yet a feverish energy might still course through your veins. If a summoning is planned for the coming night, this is the time for final preparations, for steeling your will, for reciting the ancient protective incantations that will, you pray, shield you from the forces you intend to unleash. Perhaps the day's primary work was not a summoning, but the perilous acquisition of a rare ingredient, a mandrake root pulled screaming from unhallowed ground at midnight, or a bone fragment carefully exhumed from a forgotten grave. Or maybe it was a tense negotiation with a new, powerful client, their demands bordering on the impossible, their promises of reward laced with unspoken threats. If a ritual is indeed to be performed tonight, as dusk bleeds into true darkness, you make your way to the chosen location. It might be the cold, damp earth of a graveyard, the air thick with the scent of decaying flowers and disturbed soil, the ancient tombstones leaning like silent, judgmental witnesses. Or perhaps it's a crumbling, abandoned chapel, its altar desecrated, its stained glass windows broken, allowing the mournful sigh of the wind to whisper through the empty space. You carry your ritual tools in a discreet leather satchel, your heart a tight, cold knot in your chest. You meticulously inscribe the protective circle on the ground with chalk or salt, its lines precise, its symbols potent. Within this fragile boundary, you arrange your candles, their black wax gleaming dully. The necessary herbs are laid out, their pungent, otherworldly scents mingling with the incense you light, its smoke coiling upwards like a seeking serpent. The personal effect of the deceased, or the bone fragment, is placed at the center. Then, with a deep, steadying breath, you begin the incantation. The ancient words, in Latin or some older, darker tongue, feel strange and powerful on your tongue, a key unlocking forbidden doors. Your voice, at first a low murmur, rises in pitch and intensity, echoing in the stillness of the night. The air grows colder, the candle flames flicker and dance erratically, casting grotesque, elongated shadows. You feel a pressure building, a thinning of the veil between worlds, a prickling sensation on your skin, the hairs on your arms standing on end. The smell of ozone, or something far more ancient and unsettling, might fill the air. If the ritual is successful, a presence begins to manifest, perhaps a shimmering, translucent form, a whisper of cold air, a voice that seems to speak directly into your mind, filled with sorrow or anger or a chilling indifference. This is the moment of greatest peril and greatest triumph. You must maintain control, your will a bulwark against the spirit's potential malevolence or deceit. You ask your questions, deliver your client's messages, your voice firm despite the tremor you feel deep within. The spirit's answers might be cryptic, a riddle wrapped in sorrow, or chillingly direct. The exchange is a delicate, dangerous dance. Once the necessary information is gleaned or the spirit's purpose fulfilled, the equally perilous task of dismissal begins. You recite the banishing formulas, your voice unwavering, commanding the entity to return to its realm, to trouble the living no more. The protective circle you pray holds firm. If, however, the ritual goes awry, if you summoned the wrong entity, a hungry, malevolent shade, or if the spirit proves too strong, too resistant, then the terror is absolute. The circle might waver, the candles might extinguish, plunging you into a terrifying darkness filled with an unseen hostile presence. You fight back with every ounce of your will, every protective incantation you know, your heart hammering, your breath ragged, the taste of fear coppery in your mouth. Escape might be your only option, a desperate flight from a power you could not control, leaving the ritual unfinished, the consequences unknown. Whether the night's work culminates in a successful, if draining, communion or a terrifying, chaotic flight, you eventually retreat to your hidden sanctuary. The work of the day, in its most intense form, is over. The adrenaline begins to recede, leaving behind a profound, bone deep exhaustion, both physical and spiritual. If you manage to secure payment from your noble client earlier, or if the purpose of the ritual was for your own arcane research, there is no further business to conduct. Food, if you can stomach it after such an encounter with the numinous or the nefarious, is a secondary concern. Perhaps you force down a piece of dry bread, a mouthful of water, your body aches, your mind is a whirl of unsettling images, of whispered words from beyond the grave. There is no leisure, no entertainment to distract you. Your rest is often a fitful, uneasy state, your senses still on high alert. You might meticulously clean and store your ritual tools, the familiar actions a small comfort in the unsettling aftermath. Or you might simply sit in the darkness, wrapped in your cloak, trying to process what has transpired, to ground yourself once more in the mundane world, though you know a part of you will always linger in the shadows, on the threshold of the other side. You are alone with your forbidden knowledge, with the echoes of the dead, a solitary figure navigating the perilous currents of a world that both needs and reviles your dark, ancient art. True night descends, and your hidden sanctuary, be it a damp cellar or a forgotten tower room, becomes a crucible of silence and shadow. The last sputtering candle casts long, dancing specters on the walls, distorting the familiar shapes of your arcane tools, your stacks of forbidden books, making them seem alien, almost menacing. The air is cold, still carrying the faint, unsettling scent of the day's ritual: incense, sulfur, perhaps the lingering metallic tang of blood, or the earthy aroma of grave soil. Outside, the sounds of 14th century Spain have largely faded, leaving a quiet that is less peaceful than pregnant, a silence that seems to listen back. You lie on your rough pallet, every bone in your body aching with a profound weariness that goes far beyond the physical. The spiritual and mental toll of your day's work, the intense concentration of the ritual, the terror of a near miss, the draining interaction with a demanding noble, or the sheer soul chilling contact with the dead, has left you hollowed out, a fragile vessel. Your mind, however, refuses to rest. It replays the events with an unwelcome clarity, the shimmering form of the summoned spirit, its whispered, cryptic answers, the glint of fear or avarice in your client's eyes, the moment the protective circle almost failed, the suffocating presence of an uninvited entity. Did I ask the right questions? Was the spirit truthful or a master of deceit? Did I leave any trace, any clue that could lead the Inquisition to my door? The faces of those you've summoned, or those you've read about in your grim tomes, might drift before your closed eyelids. You ponder the nature of the souls you disturb. Are you truly offering solace to the grieving, or merely exploiting their pain for your own gain, for the advancement of your forbidden knowledge? The Church condemns your art as an abomination, a trafficking with demons. Yet the nobles, the powerful, the supposedly devout, they seek you out in secret, their desperation or their greed outweighing their fear of damnation. A bitter, cynical smile might touch your lips. They call me heretic, servant of darkness, you think, yet they crawl to my door when their prayers go unanswered. The loneliness of your path is a palpable presence in the darkness. There are no true confidants, no one with whom you can share the burdens of your knowledge, the terror of your craft. You are an outcast, a creature of the shadows, forever looking over your shoulder. The few who seek your services do so out of need or dark curiosity, not fellowship. And the entities you commune with, they are not companions. They are echoes, or worse, hungry shades. What hope remains in such a life? Perhaps it is the insatiable thirst for more knowledge, the belief that somewhere within these forbidden texts, these dangerous rituals, lies a greater understanding of the universe, of the true nature of life and death. Or perhaps it is a more pragmatic hope, to survive another day, to evade the pyre, to gather enough gold to disappear, to find a place where you can practice your art, or simply live in peace, a near impossible dream. Or maybe, in your darkest moments, your hope is a more sinister thing, the accumulation of power, the ability to command forces that others can only dream of, or fear. Your body is a testament to your perilous craft. You might feel a lingering chill, a psychic residue from your communion with the dead, or a burning heat if the ritual involved potent, volatile energies. Your muscles might ache from the tension of maintaining the protective circle, your throat raw from chanting the ancient, powerful words. Sleep, when it finally comes, is rarely a peaceful oblivion. It is a landscape of shifting shadows, of whispering voices, of half-formed figures reaching from the abyss. You might dream of crumbling tombstones, of labyrinthine crypts, of faces contorted in silent screams, or of the cold, judging eyes of inquisitors. You might awaken with a start, your heart hammering, the taste of fear still coppery in your mouth, unsure if the whispers you hear are merely the wind or something far more personal reaching out from the other side of the veil.